Welcome. Today we're joined by Anna Astvatsaturian, a writer, lecturer, and someone who's been campaigning tirelessly with regards to the persecution of Armenians in Azerbaijan and Karabakh. Anna, thank you very much for your time. Thanks for coming down.
Thank you.
So you have quite a story. You are an Armenian from Baku. You and your family were forced to leave Azerbaijan as refugees. Last time we spoke was in the midst of the Second Karabakh War. Since then, President Aliyev stated that the Karabakh conflict is a thing of the past. So I'm curious, how do you see the situation right now in Armenia and Artsakh?
Well, it is certainly a thing of the past for Azerbaijan. You know, for the last 30 years, they've dwelled on the loss of Artsakh. That family continue to push the propaganda both internally to their citizens and externally to the rest of the world that we were villains, and propagate that kind of hatred toward Armenians and prepare for this war where they reached all the goals that they hoped to reach. I'm sure that they wanted to take the entire Artsakh and got 75% of it, but they achieved what they achieved, and the kind of internal situation in Armenia helps that this is a right time for them to kind of dot that I and cross that T and sign away pretty much whatever they agreed to and whatever they won.
And you were warning several times before the conflict that something like this may happen in the future, as did other Armenians. But I think some people may be misassessing how Azerbaijani society or politics works, in that some were thinking that once the war ended, possibly we would see a positive trajectory. But since then, it seems that the government in Baku is determined to continue this policy of Armenophobic attitude. So I was wondering, why is it that you were so sure about Azerbaijan's approach to Armenia, and that won't particularly change even with the end of the war? Because
I saw them work. I saw them in the world advocating for their public, their country interest, and they were a machine. They were a very well-oiled machine in their diplomacy, in their lobbying efforts. They were brutal. They could put out a lie and just stand behind it all the way through. And we hoped that the world would see it as we see it, the truth, and the truth will be on our side. Human rights will be on our side. But as an Armenian refugee from Azerbaijan, seeing the brutality against that 350,000 Armenians from Azerbaijan, and then continued escalation of hatred. Everyday Azerbaijanis back then, and compared to Azerbaijanis today, they have, I would say, it's day and night, because many of them, especially the younger population, have never seen an Armenian. So seeing that escalation of hatred, seeing how well they worked, seeing how disjointed the efforts on the Armenian side were, I felt that they wouldn't stop, and why would they? They're getting what they want. We're handing it over to them. We lost the war. We're continuing to lose on the diplomatic side. I don't think we're even doing anything at this point. It feels like we're just kind of waiting for them to decide what our fate is. And we, the like-minded people like me, we knew that Karabakh was a buffer zone for Armenia. Once we had that border with Azerbaijan and Armenia, they would not stop. They would go further, and kind of feeling out that weakness that we have internally, they're taking advantage of it because they know what they want. One of the things I posted soon after the war was how quickly they were building the road to Shushi, and that was very much emblematic of how determined they are, and they know what they want and they get to it. And we're very divided as a people, and we have been.
And you're embarking on a new project at the moment, which is aiming to do a census of Artsakh inhabitants. Why a census, particularly in Artsakh? Why is it important, in your opinion?
Yeah, we call it census because it's really hard to kind of describe it. It's really a very comprehensive questionnaire of the loss, the damages of the war. At first, the thought came to my mind in October as the refugees were fleeing. Why the Armenian government? And I asked, why are you not counting how many people, asking them where they're coming from, what they lost? And I was told that the war is not over and those people can probably go back to their homes when it's all over. And then in November, I asked again, are you counting how many people, what they lost, so that we have an idea of how to help them, one, and for historic records, for legal evidence. And again, the Armenian government was not doing that, and Artsakh was kind of reeling from the war. So I stepped in, and as I was that year, earlier in the year, I kind of formed my foundation to do the charitable work, Anna Astvatsaturian Foundation, and this was the first project. I really didn't want this to be the first one, but it's a 45-page questionnaire assessment of medical, psychological, financial, and property loss. At first we thought the refugees, displaced, but then we realized even those that were not displaced had a loss of some sort, whether it was an injury, whether it was a family member, whether it was a summer home in Hadrut, So we decided to do the full-on census, and we're close to completion.
And can you tell us anything about how this is going to be conducted, the methodology, how exactly people in Artsakh are going to be located in order to provide the questionnaires?
I always say I'm not an expert in this field at all. I mean, I'm a banker and an attorney, so I put together a great team. So we have an association of Armenian social workers is implementing this. The two women that are running this project from Yerevan and a team in Artsakh are professors at the Yerevan State University, so they know the approach and it's important how you ask those questions and how you document it. So we have a team of 120 interviewers that we trained in Artsakh and about 100 in Armenia, because we have kind of a split population. And it is sitting down, going door to door in the entire Artsakh, and also the displaced to Armenia, finding them and taking down their testimony.
And I know you're also an avid follower of US politics, and in our last interview you stated that you believe that the Biden administration would be better for Armenia at least than the Trump administration. Since then, White House has officially recognized the Armenian genocide. The US has also called on Azerbaijani soldiers to pull back from their current incursions into Armenian territory. But when it came to the sanctions waiver issue, some feel that the decision made by Washington wasn't as pro-Armenia as many hoped. So how do you assess, since Biden's inauguration, the new administration in Washington's approach to Armenia, Karabakh, and also to Azerbaijan?
I just want to correct it. I never thought that Biden administration was going to be pro-Armenia. I thought Biden administration was going to be very hard on Turkey and on Russia. And that might benefit us and that might not. I think the Armenian genocide recognition by the administration was definitely helpful to us and the 106 years of advocacy for the diaspora in the United States. But we're not naive enough that this was done because it was the right thing to do. And a historic fact, it was certainly done because of the posture with Turkey, and it was a wave, right? There was a Senate and the House confirmation of it as a historic fact, and it was kind of served to Biden, and this was important to him, so that was done. As far as the rest of the rest of it after coming on board, he I feel is going to be much more conservative than we thought. He's definitely more brave, I would say more courageous in his acts than Obama was. And I think because he's at the end of his career, he's doing what he thinks is right. I don't think he's going to put American interests aside for what the right thing is. It's definitely what is right for the United States. And in this case, this was the case, and Armenia is kind of on the back burner.
Yeah. And obviously, the war ended in early November. The POWs, many of them have still not been released. 500, according to the Prime Minister, Azerbaijani soldiers are currently stationed within Armenian territory. The status of Nagorno-Karabakh is not even being discussed. So I'm curious, in your opinion, what is being done wrong by the Armenian side? What can the Armenian side do to better its position?
Well, I feel like the human rights aspect of the people of Artsakh hasn't even been discussed since the war. We are focusing on the border demarcation. That has been the focus by the current administration, by the opposition, and it's, the human rights aspect of people of Karabakh has, aside from the status, I mean, we're not even talking about the status, of Karabakh, but the demarcation is problematic because as you're going up that border and you are recognizing what's Armenia and what Azerbaijan is, you're really kind of cutting off Karabakh from Armenia. And you are acknowledging by this demarcation that Karabakh is within Azerbaijani territory. That to me is dangerous. And the POWs in the West, in the diaspora, that has been a focus. I don't know how much of a focus has been here politically, but it certainly is a very hot topic for the diasporans, and we have been advocating, but we feel like that the current administration is not advocating as hard as it should be. And similar to the human rights aspect of access to water, access to healthcare, and the self-determination part. I mean, that's nowhere to be found. The fact that we have 500 Azeris on the Armenian soil, I don't know why people are not as outraged as they should be. And if they are outraged, why they're not voicing their concerns, because as we've seen, that hatred hasn't gone away, and it's putting the people of Sunni, where my grandfather is from, my grandmother are from, I feel like that's my fatherland. People of Sunni are in direct danger of continued atrocities and possibly war crimes. Recently, we've been hearing about a possible agreement between Armenia and Azerbaijan. President Aliyev even made a statement saying that a peace treaty is needed between Armenia and Azerbaijan. The Prime Minister in Armenia said that an agreement is in the works with regards to border demarcation, but we really don't know what's going on behind closed doors with regards to these negotiations. So I was wondering what do you think when you hear these things, and what do you think about the prospect of peace, an eventual peace with Azerbaijan? It's hard to have peace with a country that wants to annihilate you, right? So they can say whatever they want. They have been saying that as they were, hurting Armenian people and saying that all they want is peace and all they want is their homeland, as they're bombing civilians. So those are posture words for I think the West, and how do you respond to that? We don't want peace. But the reality is there's no peace without security. The people of our Artsakh are not secured. The people of Sunni are not secured. Let's talk about POWs. Where are even civilians who are in Baku prisons, probably being tortured? So it's hard to talk to a adversary that doesn't believe that you belong to the land you're born on, and wants to go all the way to Yerevan and make it Azeri. So what he's saying to the West and what he's saying to his citizens is day and night, and it has been, so it's not surprising. As far as the agreement, for a country that we say we are, Armenia as being a democratic, transparent, peace-loving and human rights-loving country, we don't know what the terms of that agreement is. So how can I comment on it when it's a mystery? And why is it a mystery? It's for your viewers to decide. But it's hard to talk about peace without understanding what the cost is. What are we signing away for this peace? And I bet you anything, it's a lot. And why are we in that situation? We can go all the way back to 1991, where we hard-earned our independence, and now we're losing it piece by piece.
And you were born in Baku. I'm interested to ask, you spoke about this exodus of Armenians, 300,000 Armenians moving from away from Azerbaijan. I was wondering what you can tell us about you and your family's memories of that exodus.
Well, it was in waves, right? It was Sumgait, and then it was Kirovabad, and then it was couldn't walk to school because you might get snatched and killed and raped. And then it was very much organized Baku pogroms. We left at the end of September of '89, and Baku pogroms happened in 1990. So when people talk about pogroms, in between then, it wasn't peaceful and wonderful. It was escalating. You might, have a random break-in, killing of an Armenian family because the propaganda, the hatred was coming out. The Armenians were killing Azeris. Armenians you need to leave, and they're taking all our jobs and all our, beautiful apartments. And so a lot of it was preparation, and that continues. So as my mom was really fighting to stay, and this could not happen in the Soviet Union, this could not happen in Baku, a multicultural, intellectual, we have a lot of friends who are Azeris, Greeks, Jews, this could not happen here. And then it happened, something happened, and my mom came home one day and said, we're leaving. And she bought a ticket, and we left. My dad couldn't leave for another month because his job was deliberately delaying giving him his documents back. So, and he looks very Armenian, so he couldn't travel with us. And he barely survived that 1 month in Baku in October. But our neighbors didn't leave, and they were killed. And the atrocities continued into '91. The ones that stayed, you never hear about them because it's the Baku pogroms that people mostly talk about it. But there were a lot of Armenians that really couldn't believe that this could happen and that the Soviet Union would allow it, and that kind of hatred continued. But it was brewing for 80 years, since the genocide.
That experience is really awe-inspiring. But what I'm interested about you, Anna, is that you have a very clear perception of Azerbaijani politics and society and its attitude towards Armenians. So finally, I just want to ask, how do you see the future? Do you see it as being bleak? Are you hopeful? How do you feel about the future? I
have to be hopeful. I think without hope, I couldn't continue doing the work that I do, and to kind of getting up every day. And the focus is always people, right? The everyday people like my family that didn't have an advocate to advocate for us, for Baku Armenians who, the reason I did this census is because no one did it for us. No one cared what we lost, how many people died. No one has that data. And now it's happening to Artsakh. So I want to advocate for the everyday families that don't have, the resources to leave and resources to survive. And when I do have a clearer conceptual, clear understanding about Azerbaijan it's Azerbaijani politics. You know, Azerbaijani family actually saved my family's life. Neighbors who kind of told the crowds to go away and to not break into our apartment because we were gone already. But we were not, we were hiding. So those Azerbaijanis that did stand up and protect Armenians, you know, are always in my heart. And they are as much of victims of that regime as we are, I would say, and they're fearful for their life. I think that the next few years, if not 10 years, are going to be incredibly difficult. We have to hold on to Armenia as is, you know, as an independent state, and that is what's at stake, and that's scary. We have to focus on us, you know, we have to focus on securing ourselves. We have to focus on building our economy, building the military. You know, the ones that say to me, we want peace, we're pacifists. Yeah, you can have peace if you're not being actively murdered. Then you become a fool if you're just kind of being waiting for it to happen. So we have to be realistic of who our neighbors are and what they want to do, and make efforts to be a little more savvy. You know, I love my friends at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs who are incredibly good at their job, but without the leadership encouraging them and empowering them to advocate on behalf of Armenia, they can't. So I think it all comes from the top, and it has to be, we have to agree what our national interests are. Azerbaijan knows exactly what our national interests are. United States knows, but we don't. We know what our personal interests are, and you know, and that's our downfall.
Oh, Anna, thank you very much for your time again.
Thank you. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us on CivilNet.